I'm still digging myself out of email, so I'm sure you replied. But you had said that you might be going out of town for the holidays.
All right, good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Cunningham Township Board meeting. As a note, within this meeting, we will have another meeting of the Decennial Committee. And following that, we will have City Council meeting at 7 p.m. So will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Hersey, Ms. Colasetti,
Here.
Ms. Bishop, Ms. Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin, Ms. Chenoweth, Ms. Awana.
All right, approval of the minutes. There are no approvals of the minutes. Additions to the agenda. All right, seeing none. Public participation. Would anybody like to speak in front of the Cunningham Township Board? If so, please come up to the mic. Nope. All right. Committee to verify bills. Danielle?
Good evening. Let's see, so this, let me just scroll down to the, sorry. Okay, here we go. This month we had $33,662.15 in town fund expenditures. We had $118,208.18 in general assistance fund expenditures for a total of $151,870.33. I'm happy to answer any questions about the bills that were included in the packet.
Questions of the bills? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
Moved by Jay and seconded by Grace. Any discussion? Need to be a roll call? Bills?
I think it's voice.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, those bills are approved. Reports of officers.
I will be brief since we have a decennial committee, so I think the primary things that I wanted to highlight from this time period is just the high number of food requests that we're getting right now. I did confirm with Representative Ammon's office that the state of Illinois is not kicking in a work requirement for food, which was initially listed on the IDHS website and wasn't changed until basically the date it was supposed to kick in. So they've renewed that, and it has to do with the high level of unemployment that we have in the state, so that's one of the justifications. That is hugely great news, because I don't know what we would do if we had a work requirement, because then there was no guidance on whether or not how we would exempt people for being homeless or for having disabilities. Like, I just think there wasn't a lot of thought put into that part of the congressional act. So that's great news. That said, we max out every week in food assistance. So I just wanted to point out we are looking at kind of how we do food assistance, because it's become a much more integral part of what we do at Township. And so I'm analyzing Solidarity Gardens and our food assistance program, and I may be bringing some changes to that to better provide that service. Let's see, the only other thing I want to point out, and I had invited you all, and we're inviting the public to, we have French friends coming to do aerial acrobatics and a play called the Circo Infinito play with juggling, acrobatics, aerial performance, and that will be at the Independent Media Center on Saturday. We're going to actually dress up at 10 o'clock, go to the indoor farmers market, and with instruments at 10:30, and we're working with the Land Connection. We are, we're publicizing that you can use your link card to turn $1 into $4. So if you bring your link card to the indoor farmers market, you get $4 of produce for that $1, which is really great. Produce, eggs, bread, there's a lot of different things you can convert. So we're trying to help to publicize the indoor farmers market with our cloning. And then we are going to go back to the IMC at 11:30. There's a play for free. It's all ages. It's our friends Jamal Partout, which means I feel bad all over is the name of their organization. And they do humanitarian clowning. And then we have a appreciation lunch, and it's by invitation only, and I've invited the town board along with our staff and our interns and volunteers. So if you're able to make it as town board members, clerk, and likewise, if you could please RSVP to me no later than tomorrow. I'll also just say that, we also have an artwork contest, so we're eliciting from township participants of all ages artwork, and we will provide $100 to the 5 winners to use their artwork on township materials. So our thank you cards will, and our, thank you and our congratulations cards will actually use artwork. If we don't get enough submission from township participants, we'll be opening that up to the community. So You'll see that on our social media account, and we appreciate people sharing that information.
Questions? Chris?
Thanks for the report. With winter being about 5 minutes away, I just wanted to ask how some kind of status report on emergency funding for emergency housing, whether it be hotels or whatever's available. But are we ready to face the winter, so to speak?
This is a great question. I think that our community has struggled for a long time to have enough shelter, and we have not had enough shelter in the winter months. I think one of the exceptions is there was a time when I believe there were 2 years in a row where we were able to basically say we don't have anyone that we can find who are on the streets. So we're trying to achieve that. I think See You at Home moving out has opened up space at Strides. So we appreciate the city council permitting that on Springfield Avenue. But essentially Strides does, and when it is under a certain temperature, Strides opens up additional cots, and they've been authorized by the fire department in Champaign to do that. That said, we are actively working with, it says, if you look at the street outreach report, that pretty much is regularly looking at how many folks are on the street that we're working with. Right now, so last month we served 38 households representing 46 residents. So those are folks who are actively unsheltered. If they're staying at Strides, they have a different program where their staff works with them. So our staff is basically working with unsheltered residents. And this last year, we're looking at about 46. And I would say that is most likely, we look for residents in places throughout Champaign-Urbana and to some degree Rantoul. We do serve the whole county. We will respond to calls during business hours, but that's the number of folks that we're looking at. We do see that sometimes in the winter, people will allow family members to live with them for short periods of time. But right now, there is concern that there will be people outside this winter. We don't have a wait list for our family shelter, so that's been a huge success as we've been expanding. With regard to individuals, as you know, we received an emergency housing transitional housing grant, and that is allowing us to expand our services from 16 to 22. And we've been staffing up for that, but we intend to add 4 more units December 1st. So we plan to have the staff in place that we can basically expand those units. Those are for medically fragile folks and people with disabilities or other risk factors staying in congregate shelter, and all of those referrals come through Strides or See You at Home. So they don't refer directly to or through our street outreach program. Our street outreach program, usually our staff member will accompany people to try to get into the shelter, and if they have some reason why they are not able to stay, then essentially they would then be tracked into our program. So those are 4 additional units. But I think that part of the big picture is that basically See You at Home moved out and Strides moved in, and we didn't get additional beds from that process, except for a small men's house and a small women's house. So in the bigger scheme of things, I think that, and I know See You at Home has desire to grow, and I know there are other organizations looking to grow in Champaign-Urbana, but I feel like, we've taken a small step. We didn't significantly increase our shelter capacity with that step yet. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Chandra, did you have a question? Oh, okay. I have 2 questions if nobody else has questions. My first question was, I noticed that you have a partnership with the Vision Clinic providing free prescriptions.
Yep.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that program.
Yes, I would love to talk about that program, and let me make sure I'm giving accurate information. I have met with Avicenna numerous times. They are a free healthcare clinic that's based in the basement of public health. They're originally started by Muslim doctors in the community. And they continue to provide services, and they host a lot of medical students from the U of I and Carl Medical School partnership. They have an eye clinic. They've opened an eye clinic where basically you walk out with a prescription. It's free. You don't have to have an ID, which is huge. You don't have to have insurance. You could have insurance. Maybe you have insurance and your copay is too much or your deductible is too much and you can't afford it. A lot of insurance doesn't cover eyes at all. I don't know why, because it's part of our body, just like our teeth, but for some reason it's not included. And so, let's see. They are having an eye clinic, and they are going to, the next two, the last one, we sent a blast out, it was yesterday. The next eye clinic is gonna be from 1 to 4 p.m., December 17th. And Avicenna is at 201 West Kenyon Road where public health is located. And they will do vision, checks and prescriptions for glasses or contacts, glaucoma screening, retinal checks, very important for people like me who have terrible eyes, or managing eye symptoms. They are also going to open OBGYN clinic on December 1st. And we send out a regular update about services in the community every Tuesday. And anyone can sign up at ctso.org. It's the first thing that pops up when you go to the website. You don't have to search for it. You put your email in, and you'll get every email on Tuesdays. And so we'll continue to share information because it's always changing about different clinics.
And then my second question, and perhaps I should have asked this when the bills were there, do we have kind of a reserved number of hotel rooms? Or, I was looking, because it's the same amount every time.
Yes, we do. So I have negotiated with our hotel partners, I and our program director negotiate with our hotel partners a fixed amount of $45 a night. And we get a stack, we get a certain number, and we get that rate, which is wonderful because we are dedicating those units to our program. So yeah, you'll see a fixed amount, and 100% of that is paid for through our state grants.
Right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Assessor, do you have a report? Okay, all right. We don't have any unfinished business, new business. So the first item is resolution number T 2023-11012R, resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a contract with Flex for FSA and LSA benefits.
Yes, so essentially we have a current flexible spending account that goes along with our health insurance. We're moving providers because we found a provider with lower administrative fees. LSA refers to a lifestyle spending account, and I put in the budget, as you may recall, a wellness benefit for our staff. Staff who work in social services need wellness. I don't know, I could add more, but it's a stressful job, and so I've been trying to build in incentives for people to take care of themselves and their bodies. So the LSA would allow us to basically set up systems where people can swipe with a card at certain authorized vendors, like a gym membership, and have that paid for out of that benefit. Happy to answer any other questions.
Questions? Can I have a motion?
I'll move resolution number T-2023-11-012R, resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a contract with Flex for FSA and LSA benefits.
Second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by James. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that resolution passes. Next up is resolution number T 2023-11-013R, Resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a contract with Blue Cross and Blue Shield for health insurance benefits.
This is a health insurance renewal. It is the same as we have had in the past, except we've added one more platinum option, which is the same price. It just has a different kind of deductible and out-of-pocket expense. And the amount that was quoted to us is within the budget that we have put forward. In fact, we'll likely come under budget in health insurance this year.
Any questions? James?
I'll make a motion if there are no
Okay.
questions. I move resolution number T-2023-11-013R, a resolution authorizing supervisor to sign a contract with Blue Cross and Blue Shield for health insurance benefits.
Second.
Moved by James, seconded by Jaya. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. Next up is resolution number T 2023-11-014R, resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign an agreement with the city of Urbana for a grant supporting municipalities for asylum seekers.
Yes, and I see Braden Belcher is in the audience as well, and we've been working closely with his office to put forward a grant with the city of Urbana and several immigrant partners in the community for asylum seeker services. The budget that we, the budget that we have landed on essentially has us do legal support, supplies. I was looking for the budget and I thought it was attached here, but essentially what we're doing is filling in gaps that our immigrant services partners either don't have capacity to offer or don't offer. One of the pieces that we'll offer is training for the immigrant services partners on navigating housing resources, so that's a piece as well. And it will essentially, these are additional dollars that will support bridge to home activities for those who have passed over the Mexican-American border as of, I'm gonna try to get this right, May of 2020, I believe, 2021. There's a specific stipulation. These are dollars that the state flowed through the municipal, what is it? I'm sorry, I thought I had the contract in front of me, so I'm going from memory. But essentially, it is a municipal mayor's caucus or conference that received the dollars from IDHS, and then they did a competitive process, and the city of Urbana applied with us as a partner. So this is a pass-through grant.
Any questions? I have a motion.
I'll move resolution number T-2023-11-014R, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign an agreement with the city of Urbana for a grant supporting municipalities for asylum seeker services.
I'll second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by Jaya. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, that motion carries. On to our meeting embedded into a meeting. So the next up on the agenda is the decennial committee, and I believe we have at least one additional member, if they wouldn't mind coming and sitting next to me. Oh, we have two. You know what? Ethan is not on the committee. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Here?
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Hersey, Ms. Colasetti,
Here.
Ms. Bishop,
Here.
Ms. Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin, Ms. Chenoweth,
Here.
Ms. Owana.
Here.
Ms. Elliott, Michelle Jett.
Next up is public input. As there are no public people, we'll move on from that. And last up is research discussion. I assume that, Ethan, are you the one who's going to present on this? You'll have to turn on the
Yeah,
mic.
turn on the mic. I'll do a little introduction and then I'll pass it over to Ethan. So Ethan Garcia is with urban planning at the University of Illinois. He'll be getting his master's degree in May and he'll be with us for 2 semesters. Really excited to have him, and also just shout out to urban planning. We've had just some of the best interns from urban planning. So I proposed to Ethan that he basically staff and support the decennial committee, and he agreed. He has an interest in political science and policy. And so, as we discussed when we created the committee, we're really looking at a 2-semester project that will help to look at local efficiencies and collaboration in government. And I had proposed a scope of work that basically looks at all of the townships in the county, since we hear from many of them all the time, and we aren't able to actually answer the questions oftentimes that we get, nor is the county clerk able to answer the questions, even though some of the documents should be there. And so, you know, this in many ways gives us an opportunity to reach out and establish those relationships with those townships and just get basic information. So I'm going to pass it over to Ethan to talk a little bit about what is being proposed in terms of the scope of work, and then in particular kind of the timeline of activities, so that you all, or the proposed timeline of activities, so that you are all aware of it. And I think what we're asking for is and then final deliverables, which is there will be a digital report as well as a presentation. Based on this, we would like to ask the decennial committee to vote on this as a scope of work. Certainly you could make changes to that scope, you know, as a majority can make changes to the scope of work, but this is what is being proposed. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Ethan share kind of the what the basics are and what it will look like, so you have an understanding of what's being proposed. I might fill in some details after that, and then we can have a discussion. How does that sound? Okay.
Hello. Again, my name is Ethan. It's nice to meet you all. I am a new intern for Cunningham Township, but I am familiar with this unit of government, as I have also had class with Danielle before a few years ago, and she had a wonderful presentation that really inspired me to apply when I saw the opening position to begin with. And in all honesty, I'm from Chicago, so I had no idea what a township was in general, but I have come to learn that they actually do have a lot of great power in their community if they dedicate the time and resources to them. And I think Cunningham Township is a great example of where they use their resources and publicize all the services that they provide very well. And within this research, we hope to compile what all the townships in the county do and allow the public to be able to find these resources in a compact way so that everyone can receive the services. And for the township that may not have services, maybe they are encouraged to enact similar services and provide similar types of resources for people, especially since Cunningham gets a lot of calls from people outside our township that we technically can't aid. And so it's a little devastating that even me already doing a bit of initial research of just the websites of the townships, I can't find some of the public officials or some of the services that's provided, or I can't find details about the services. So the biggest end product of this would be interactive PDF or PowerPoint that would allow the public to look it up very easily and allow to get access to all the resources or whoever they need to call to get the service or resource that they need.
I would just add that I wanted to put together a proposal that would be meaningful and impactful for the people we serve and the people we hear from. And I think that another piece of this will also be looking at our partnerships. So we'll be looking at townships outside, and we'll also be looking at our existing partnerships. We have 29 existing partnerships with actual formal MOUs. There's a number and I think that we would look to the decennial committee if there are other groups that we should be partnering with or really establishing formal relationships with. And that may include other townships, right? So it might be, this is an opportunity, and I know at one point the Rantoul supervisor was interested in joining our rental assistance program, so part of this will be reaching out to the new supervisor who's there, inviting them to the rental assistance consortium, and actually you can invite all of the townships who would like to participate in that rental consortium as part of this process. So we're really looking at building our partnerships countywide. We essentially, with grant funding, we are a countywide organization. Obviously, our levy dollars are exclusively for Cunningham Township. And I would say children who are served in Urbana schools as well. But other than that, we've been, so I think that we have it makes sense that we would move in this direction, given that we're really becoming a county-wide organization that provides important services, especially for the homeless. So with that, I wondered if you all had any clarifying questions before I open it up for debate. Is there specific questions that you have about the proposal that's on the table?
Questions? Oh, did you want to add something?
Oh, there we go. I'm curious, and maybe something like this would be better down the road if you're communicating with other counties on how they're going about this. Theoretically, I assume that all the counties are supposed to be doing this.
Correct. Every county in Illinois is required to have every township in Illinois is required to have a decennial committee.
Okay. Yeah, I found it helpful when I worked at the township to look at counties which had similar populations, like McLean County and Bloomington Normal, because it would also make you feel much better about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's that the level of services you provide. I'm curious if anyone else is doing that.
So I just met with Mary Hess of DeKalb Township this last week. I get calls all the time from township supervisors. Yeah. There's a metro area coalition of townships I just learned about that is kind of the collar townships outside of Chicago. So we're going to join that, even though we're not exactly metro. We're kind of like, what do they call it? Micro-urban metro. But we're going to join that group because it's a lot of progressive township supervisors. I get called because people want to come and take tours. So Mary's going to come and take a tour because she's interested in doing more around housing, because that is the big issue that everyone is seeing across the country. Waukegan, I mentioned Waukegan. Waukegan Township is a township that has homeless services. So they actually operate a shelter. It's one of the few. And I've reached out to their supervisor. I met with them at a toy conference and Township Officials of Illinois conference, and starting to kind of swap information. But I would say, generally speaking, yeah, I actually don't think there's, in City of Champaign now runs a pretty robust homeless shelter. Right. But between the two townships, I really think, we're unusual in that way. And so I'm trying to be in contact with other townships outside of the county to be able to provide, I basically say we're open source. If you want a policy or procedure, you don't have to FOIA for it. I'll just give it to you, and you can use that as your basis so you don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Mm-hmm. And again, it would be good just to look at comparing counties and where Champaign County is a leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is Carol Elliott is our former supervisor of Cunningham Township. She said she worked for the township. I just want to clarify. She was Hefe. Okay.
Well, but I did before I was the supervisor.
No.
Other questions? Grace?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation on this, and thanks for joining us, Ethan and Carol. If I could just step back, clarify, I'm trying to get some context, and apologize because I know you've explained this before. But yeah, it seems kind of vague, and I don't know if that is just actually how it is, kind of taking the step back on this public act. I don't know if you have I'm just curious if you had a little more background on like when this was passed, and you have in here to study efficiencies and report to the county board. And I think that this direction absolutely makes sense. Just curious on a little background on this act and how others might look at those efficiencies. Just seems like there's a lot of ways to interpret it. And I wasn't quite sure what direction we were going, and if how others are interpreting that.
I mean, I will use very plain speak because I'm a plain spoken kind of gal. But basically, this public act was passed by the legislature in part because there are townships that may either not be providing services or the services are so duplicative that they really needed some pushing on the level of the legislature to talk about their relevance. And I think, I would not say this during the reign of Ms. Elliott at all, because I was a trustee and I saw that we were oftentimes serving up to 200 people at any given time. But as you recall, the last supervisor had it down to 26 clients by the time she went from 175 to 26 general assistance clients and 4 years. And so leadership matters, and Township is a very important resource. It's an entitlement that people receive general assistance. And if you think about it for a second, if you have a disability, you can't work, and you're waiting for the federal government to acknowledge that, which is a minimum of 2 years unless you're dying, then you need some kind of support, and Township provides that support. And if they don't, then there really is no support. So this public act was essentially passed by the legislatures as kind of like a this to townships. And so I looked at it as supervisor and said, okay, I don't do empty, I mean, we could meet twice, and I think a lot of supervisors they're meeting twice and there's not much they're gonna do, and they'll report all is good to their county boards. I don't really like to do empty gestures, and I thought, well, how can I actually take this seriously? How could I improve Township in my community? And how could we as a decennial committee? And I think the answer, given that I literally cannot find an address, phone number, or anything for some townships to direct people to the entitlement called general assistance, and I've talked to the clerk, and that office doesn't receive the documents that are required to be filed necessarily. I thought, well, the FOIA process is a really good process because they're going to have to reply. And if you saw in the FOIA, we're going to give people 3 weeks. It's stuff that should be on hand. It should be readily available. It's basics. Who are you? Where can we contact you? Do you offer general assistance to how many people? What does your application look like? Send us a copy of it. And, tell us how people could access your services. Right, so that's like very basic, and so I feel like we as a decennial committee of a high-performing township who's now working on a county level has an opportunity to provide this document, thanks to Ethan's labor, to provide the document, and I hope to work with the county executive to basically post it publicly on the county website. We'll have it on our website. Maybe the county clerk will the same, and it'll be, okay, it's a snapshot in time, but it at least gives some information about how. So that, I don't know if that answers your question, but it really is kind of like we want you all to look at your own relevance, and we want you to report to your county board about it. And I welcome that. I think it's a really good idea. I think I think that it's really great for organizations and government entities to constantly look at how they can serve better and collaborate better. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to do so. And I promise not to send any of the nasty voicemails that I get as a result of this FOIA to any of you. I will take care of them myself.
James.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that there are 1,400 and change townships in the state of Illinois. And unlike Cunningham Township, which functions and does what it's required to do, what it's meant to be for the citizens of the state of Illinois, a lot of those townships aren't able to do that. We talk about public assistance. Most of the townships that I'm familiar with in the county are also responsible for roads, and they are, having spent time on the county board, I know they are almost always dependent on the county to support them in doing any serious road project, because they do not have the wherewithal. So in a state, who competes regularly with a couple other states for the most number of units of government, it's important to look at those units of government and say, are they able to do what they need to do? And is there a better way to organize it in the long term? And so, you know, it's not maybe targeted at us in Cunningham Township because we function and we do what we're supposed to do, and we're doing a better job of it now than we've ever done before. But it is something, it's not an unreasonable question, particularly in some of these smaller rural counties, if they shouldn't be banding together their township capabilities into their county capabilities. And many of them have. There's like 20 counties in the southern part of the state which don't have townships anymore. They have precincts because they didn't need the layer of government that the county could provide to do the things that township was doing down there. I also suspect that they're not doing everything the township's supposed to be doing down there, but that's a different story.
Other questions? Jaya?
Kind of a comment too. I like this idea. I think it's a good approach to making sure we have a better sense for what's happening around us. You had mentioned, I think you said Waukegan that has the shelter, or was it a different one? Waukegan?
Waukegan.
I'm curious, and it doesn't have to be part of this process, but one thing I've been thinking about a lot in our local community with, you know, with Cunningham Township and Champaign Township having the shelters, what does that look like when there's turnover on this with a supervisor? So like I said, it doesn't have to be part of this project necessarily, but I think as we look at those efficiencies and we think long-term, considering these are government offices that are run by elected officials, thinking about what does that continuity look like? What is the sustainability? Because I would hate for someone else, you know, Danielle, someday you get a break and someone else comes in and is like, this isn't a priority for me anymore. You know, I think that's something that's of concern for me. And I think about that with Strides as well, as what's the long-term plan if you end up with a supervisor who's not invested in the same way. So I guess maybe it might be outside of that scope, but I think when we're thinking about efficiencies and thinking about this model, that's something I think is worthy of some attention as well.
Could I respond to that?
Yeah.
Unless things have changed some, I think the board actually has power to keep things going, especially if, depending on which fund the expenses are, that it might not necessarily matter who the supervisor is if it's something the board wants to. Now, if you change board members, you know, that's not a guarantee either, but I think there are ways to deal with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and certainly would hope that the board would step in, but I also think about, you know, Danielle, your example of like what happened in between you two, right? That there's a lot of control that particular role holds as well. And so making sure we don't lose all that incredible, you know, as we're talking about the remaining gaps, just thinking about, again, what needs to be in place to empower, make sure that the town board is being mindful about that, especially if you do have someone who's not focused in that way.
What I hear is, and I get that question a lot, is this question of looking in the decennial committee, looking in part of its report, not only in terms of what are other townships doing, what are our partnerships look like, but also sustainability of our programs. I think it's great. Obviously, like the last thing I want to do is build something that washes away. And I appreciate Carol's statement, because I think, you know, I oftentimes say, you know, I am the kind of sole person over general assistance, but you all actually control the town fund. And so, and the town fund can fund all kinds of things. And you also, the levy is set about like how much money is going into general assistance versus town fund. I'm telling you all the ways you can hack, but basically like there is a way. And so maybe laying that out of like, how are it's not, I don't think it's unlike a nonprofit in that, you know, we have underperforming nonprofits in town, and oftentimes it's a leadership problem there. Sometimes it's a board problem. And so sometimes its scope has, you know, their relevance has changed, but they haven't changed. And so I actually think, I get that question a lot, and I'm always like, what, you should also ask XYZ, I won't name names right now, but like, you should also be looking at those places, because it really, in some ways, we actually get to elect our leader in Urbana, whereas when it's with a nonprofit, it's not like those with, disabilities elected the head of PACE, or those with, like, it doesn't, in the world of nonprofits, actually, there's really, it's kind of low accountability, and you can have a lot of problems with that. So I think in looking at Township, I think it is helpful to look at the sustainability piece, and I will welcome any suggestions or thoughts on how to make sure that what we build together is protected beyond any particular leader. I think general assistance is one of those things where the supervisor is going to have a lot of control over small or large, but the other, like when you own property, or there, there are certain things in which we do where it's much more stable. And in some ways, general assistance growing and shrinking, I mean, it was a big deal and it affected a lot of people, but it's only one piece of what we do right now. And so I think that, making sure that we, let's look at that piece, but I think making sure that we own and we, have built infrastructure. I built middle management, and so that has made a huge difference, because basically I have professional finance people and professional licensed social workers who are able to actually execute the programs. And so the supervisor really has a different role in some ways than they used to. It's expanded, but it's also much more focused on community partnerships and long-term visioning. So, but I think it's helpful for us to consider the scope of sustainability in the committee.
So I have two things. One is a comment and one is a question. Do you know what some of the other townships plan to do in their committees in the county?
I've only talked to our neighbor next door, and I think it's pretty, I don't have a lot of details is the answer. I don't. And, if that's something that the committee would like for us to look at, maybe some of the counties that are similar size, particularly ones with college towns in them, we could look at that. I've got good relationships with Bloomington Normal. I could reach out. I actually didn't ask Mary about this. I should have. I was really focused on our EEO program and some of the things that they're doing there. But I could ask her as well. And there's several other progressive townships that we could ask the metro area townships what they are doing for their decennial committees.
And then the other, the comment that I had is I've been increasingly more aware that PDFs are not accessible documents. And specifically for people with low vision or being blind, people who are unable to use their hands, and I mean, the keyboards, they have to use tabs, color blindness and so forth. So I would strongly encourage you to, if you're going to create a PDF as the final product, that you look into how accessible it is for people to be able to use screen readers and so forth, particularly because we have a lot of people who leverage township services that might have a disability.
Mm-hmm. That is a great comment. You can make PDFs accessible, but very few people do. I used to be an expert in that
Very
area.
challenging.
It is very challenging. So we can discuss, maybe, we talked about potentially a website, like a mini website, so that it's clickable, and that way it's more responsive. So I think it's a great comment.
All right. Yes, Darcy.
So mine is a comment. So as someone who works regularly within the FOIA process, I appreciate that you do have a disclosure in the FOIA request that they are public records. And looking through the bulleted list, I think this is a fantastic list. I think it encompasses a lot of what you guys are hoping to achieve. But I want to encourage, where possible, including the specific names of the forms, perhaps the ones that they are failing to submit to the county. Because if you are posing it as strictly a question or a concept, they can refuse to respond to that if it is not a specific record. Bodies are not required to create a record that does not exist. They are not required to respond to questions through the FOIA process. So that's more of like a caution type comment. I do not think you should remove the language that you currently have, but perhaps add to it if there is a form that contains that information, add that to that line item so that that is what you're specifically requesting.
It's a great idea. Thank you, FOIA officer. I went through that same training, and it's true.
All right, are there any last questions, comments? Chris?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback what James Quisenberry said, because you're right, James. It's a valid question to ask whether we need these townships all over the state of Illinois. However, I do want to stress, and I don't think you're implying anything less, but I'm just want to stress to any local media outlets that we here in Champaign-Urbana have fantastic townships who do enormous good work and are needed. End of comment.
Okay, all right, I think that is the full agenda. So we are adjourning the decennial committee. No?
Point of process, is it possible that we could get a motion that, so that basically our work is supported by the committee here? A motion to approve the scope of work with any particular changes you'd want to make?
Should we do a motion or a straw poll?
I'm going to procedurally suggest straw poll for approval, as it was advertised on the agenda as a discussion, not an actionable item, but we're informing the process. So I feel a straw poll is appropriate. It still grants you the consent.
James, you wanted to add something? No? Okay, all right. So all those in a straw poll, which means a thumbs up here, who agree with the proposed research. So people, the scope of work, thank you. So everybody but Ethan gets to vote on this one. So thumbs up if you approve the scope of work. 1, 2, 3, what is this, 6, 7, 8, 9? 10. All right, it's 10. All right, thumbs down if you disapprove. Okay, nobody.
That's all.
good?
Thank you for the process.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ethan. So the decennial committee is adjourned. Thank you so much for coming out. And for no further business with the Cunningham Township Board, this meeting is adjourned as well. City Council will resume at 7 p.m. So you have 12 minutes, everyone. Thank you.
in my seat. Everyone at our table, we were all together at the Township, and we were like, that's us.
All right, good evening. I'd like to call this City of Urbana City Council meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Hersey, Ms. Colasetti, Ms. Bishop,
Here.
Ms. Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from previous meetings. There are none. The third item is additions to the agenda. I'd like to state that the item K, which is a facilitated discussion between mayor and council strategic goals update, has been moved to November 27th and will not occur tonight. Are there any other additions to the agenda? All right, we're going to start with public input because we have a full house tonight. So thank you very much for coming out. People can stand at the microphone, which is to your right, and state your name for the record. So who would like to come up first? You have 5
Hello.
minutes.
5
Where's your
minutes?
clock?
Cool. I don't think I'm going to take 5 minutes. We'll see. Hi there. My name's Brian. I live in Champaign, but I work in Urbana, and I'm just a frequent hanger-outer in Urbana. And what I wanted to talk about today was something I've been thinking about a lot, and it's kind of like skateboarding and a third space. So I'm really into skateboarding. We have a fantastic skateboard community here. There's all kinds of events and music shows and kind of like public projects. Like we have No Board Left Behind, where we refurbish our old skateboards and distribute them to kids who are looking to skate. We've given skateboards to Dream and the Boys and Girls Club and the Up Center. So we have like a really strong, really cool skateboard community right now. And it's just a bummer that there's no real legal space to skate in Urbana. And, you know, we're definitely working with the park district and getting a skate park. But beyond skate parks, there's also the option of just like a skate space. And this is something I've been seeing a lot, especially on the West Coast. I saw a really cool space in Cal Anderson Park when I was in Urbana. But it's basically just an area where the city is like, hey, skateboarders are allowed here. They can do their thing here. It's not specifically or only for skateboarding, which is really cool, but skaters can kind of do what they want. And that is just, it's just hard to find a place in both Champaign and Urbana to hang out with my friends where I'm not like kind of being coerced into buying something or into drinking. So a space like that in Urbana would be really cool. Along with the fact that, you know, there are a lot of kids, you know, I'm thinking of one child in particular, Sadiq, who with his grandma comes to Spalding Skate Park in Champaign, but they haven't been coming a lot recently with how dark it gets, and there's just not a lot of time to skate after school. So it would just be really cool to have a space in Urbana because skateboarding is getting more popular. Now I'm kind of rambling, but, you know, it's about to be in the Olympics again in 2024. And it picked up a lot of steam during the pandemic. So, you know, a skateboarding space, it could be anything from a reimagined plaza or even just like a vacant lot that you allow skateboarders to come in and bring some obstacles. But there's a lot of options there, and it's an entryway not just into the sport of skateboarding, but if you go to Spalding Park and look around, you're going to see a lot of art. People do a lot of other things there, like RC cars and stuff like that. And we all mingle together, and it's just a great hot spot for community. So I just think skateboarding can make for a fantastic third space. Thank you.
Good evening, Urbana City Council. My name is Nicholas Dale. I am a resident of the city of Champaign, Illinois. I want to talk tonight about some of the laws that pass with the Safety Act that I think are pertinent to individuals within the government. Pattern or practice of violations. The Attorney General Act 15 ILCS 205/10 is amended to prohibit any governmental authority or agent of the governmental authority from engaging in a pattern or practice of conduct by officers that deprives any person of rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or the laws of the United States or by the Constitution or laws of the state of Illinois. The Illinois Attorney General is authorized to investigate allegations of violations and commence a civil action to obtain appropriate, equitable, and declaratory relief if the Attorney General believes that a violation has occurred. The remedies may include civil penalties up to $25,000 for a first violation and $50,000 for repeat violations. The second act I want to talk about, the Police Training Act, 50 ILCS 705/6.3, specifically subsection C, notice of alleged violation. There's 6 things that officers can't do that are considered decertification conduct. You can look that up. That's part B, or subsection B of that same statute. But C states that the following individuals and agencies shall notify the board within 7 days of becoming aware of any violation described in subsection B. A law enforcement agency, so I mean the Urbana Police Department, or even a civilian review board, an inspector general, and legal counsel for a law enforcement agency. You guys know who you are, who are part of that, and you're required by law to report that to the Illinois Law Enforcement Trainings and Standards Board. Lastly, since this is a city, and we have the lovely city of Chicago here in Illinois with all of its law-abiding officials that never commit corruption, 65 ILCS 5/10-1-34. This is from the municipality code. No person while holding any office in the government of such municipality or in nomination for, or while seeking a nomination for, or appointment to any such office shall corruptly use or promise to use, either directly or indirectly, any official authority or influence, whether then possessed or merely anticipated, in the way of conferring upon any person or in order to secure or aid any person in securing any office or public employment, or any nomination, confirmation, promotion, or increase of salary upon the consideration or condition that the vote or political influence or action of the last named person or any other shall be given or used in behalf of any candidate, officer, or party, or any other corrupt condition or consideration. You can't use your political influence to ask something of corruption. I mean, there's several things that I'm concerned about with the police. One of them is an app called Fog Reveal. The company's based out of Virginia. They're buying all of our cell phones' location data from Apple, Android, you name it, Google, and they compile patterns on where we go without getting the proper warrants to track a person's location throughout where they go. If every day I went to the coffee shop at 8 a.m., the police would know because they can buy that data from an application called Fog Reveal. There are certain Illinois statutes that further enumerate our rights as citizens here. The Freedom from Location Surveillance Act and the Citizen Privacy Protection Act. Those mainly deal with if someone put a GPS tracker on someone's car, if someone was using a cell site simulator to track an individual's phone and patterns. The officers that commit violations of that without proper procedural bases also violate official misconduct, law enforcement misconduct potentially, and potentially obstructing justice, depending on what they're using it for, if it's intimidation. So just everyone be aware now that you've been educated on this. I mean, if a lawyer sees this and wants to use this in a court of law and says, well, you unequivocally knew because Mr. Dale came and told you, then just beware. Thank you.
Anybody else like to address City Council?
Good evening, City Council. My name is Marion Harrington. I have a petition here that I'd like to present to the council. subject of this petition is the development of Hope Village and tiny homes community with intensive case management for chronically homeless and medically fragile homeless individuals. We, residents of Carver Park subdivision, surrounding neighborhoods of both cities of Champaign and Urbana, and others interested in the preservation, welfare, and safety of the historical legacy of Carver Park subdivision, oppose the development of Hope Village, proposed to initially consist of 30 tiny homes and a community center adjoining Carver Park subdivision, and we desire proceedings of this development be halted. We oppose the opening of Carver Drive as access to this development and propose, without conceding, that if this development proceeds, permanent access be directed around Federal Drive and Kenyon Road. Let it be known those signing this petition empathize with the needs, welfare, and safety of all homeless individuals, both chronically and medically fragile. Our utmost concern is for the safety and welfare of our children and residents, and the preservation of the legacy of Carver Park subdivision, the first African-American subdivision built in Champaign, Urbana. As this petition says, we weren't given an opportunity to voice our opinion on whether we wanted the Hope Village development to come through or not. They just came through, dumped it on us, and expect us to take it. Well, we're not. So we're not opposed of the homeless or any homeless. I volunteer at the soup kitchen, so I know the needs of the needy. What we propose is tired of getting dumped on and people thinking they could do the black community any way they want to. So this petition has 285 signatures on it, and we will present it to the clerk and hope the city reads it and thus forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Eldris Melinda Carr, and I am bringing this part of the petition. It is your copy of the updated letter for Hope Village that was read by the planning staff into the minutes to be recorded in the public record for the Plan Commission meeting on November 9th, 2023. And it's from the neighboring residents, including Carver Park, Crispus Attucks, Dr. Ellis, Martin Luther King subdivisions, and others in the surrounding community who are in opposition to the location of Hope Village. Secondly, there's a letter, copy of a letter from Sharice Hersey, alderperson from Ward 3, who was sick on that evening. The memo was read by Audra Owens during the November 9th meeting. And if these needs to be read into the record, we can do that at a future time, and more information will follow. We're working on presently information regarding the Hope Village project plans. So.
Hello, my name is Andrew Valentine. I live at Ivanhoe Trailer Park. I run a small skateboard shop here downtown at Racing Main. Christopher Evans walked in the store a couple weeks ago, maybe. So we have been talking, and hopefully we can plan somehow to create a skateboard park downtown Urbana, as well as making it maybe paint-friendly as well. Spalding Skate Park in Champaign welcomes people to paint there, as well as bring in obstacles. But we will really take anything. If you could potentially designate us a parking lot, maybe with a fence around it, maybe like a roof would be great, but will really take anything. So it's just we as skateboarders, there are 2 skate parks in Champaign. There are 0 in Urbana, 0 in Savoy. There's a lot of fun stuff to skateboard around town. However, it is not technically legal. So if we are able to create a safe space for people who identifies themselves as skaters, you know, roller skating, biking, scooters, skateboards, it would be monumental for the area. It would attract people from other parts of the state, and it would attract people from all over to come skateboard here in town. And yeah, we do a lot of events and a lot of cool stuff. These are my buddies, Brian, who just talked earlier. He does awesome stuff for the community. But yes, my name is Andrew Valentine, and Urbana would benefit exponentially from a skate park. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else like to address the council?
My name is Robert Lewis, former council member. On last Tuesday, we had a nice meeting with the commission to review some of the details associated with the development of Hope Village. One of the things that the people have brought to you already has been a combination of a lot of the concerns of the people. And from an engineering standpoint, I had several. And I had some of my questions answered, some I did not. In the packet that I received, I noticed that they were concerned with resident homes and also institutional, the land use requirements. It shouldn't be debated at this point if you're ready to fly. I'm concerned with, it's not really my concern, it's more the developer's concern into what he has to put into these facilities. If it's institutional, as some of the information that came out in the planning meeting, for example, if they're going to have people that need medical care, then facilities have to accommodate that if it's institutional in nature. If it's just residential and you're just going to stay there, that's like a house, right? That's fine. But those kinds of things shouldn't be nebulous at this point. And I noticed in the drawings, they both had the same number. I don't understand that. I would like a clarification on that. But over the past several months, I've been listening very carefully to what the community wanted. I've reviewed the drawings, and as they mentioned, they're not concerned about what these people do, but the fact of how they approach this project was critical to the neighborhood. My understanding is that the petition was made because they were to use Federal Drive as an entry point. Carver Drive, they arbitrarily used, which was in Champaign, which caused a conflict between the neighborhoods because they lobbied the people in Champaign and didn't discuss it with the people in Urbana. But it's being built in Urbana. It's a real calamity of errors. I propose I will come up with something I'll share with them to address their concerns and present it to the council. And in comparison to the design people that have worked already, hopefully it will address all of those issues. But I don't have it for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Anybody else like to address the city council this evening?
Hello, my name is James. I just came here to also speak in support of building a skate park here in Urbana. My friend Andrew told me that you guys would be considering it maybe, or talking about your priorities in the next few years, and that might be one that you're considering. So I just wanted to say I think it would be great for Urbana. You know, skateboarding is a great activity for a lot of kids who maybe are not team sports type kids. It's a great activity where they can, you know, go out there and push themselves and learn something about, what it takes to learn how to skateboard. It's a great place where people can interact, of different ages, different ethnicities, all that type of stuff. It's a very inclusive type of environment. I think Urbana would benefit from it. I think there's a lot of great examples of cities across the Midwest and across the United States and the world that have done great skate parks, and I think Urbana has a great opportunity. I think that skateboarding is maybe a little bit overlooked in the Midwest, but also here in Urbana, and so that just means that there's a great opportunity for us to really step up and do a great job for skateboarding. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for your input. Would anybody else like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on now to
Email.
Oh, I'm sorry. Grace? Or Chandra? Or Jaya? Oh, I have an email.
You got it?
I have an email. Yes, this might be the one. Thank you for reminding me. All right, this is public input from Julie Watkins. To the Urbana City Council, please read this email during public comment.
Hello?
Thank you for the opportunity. 1 second.
Hello?
Can you give me a moment so I can finish this email and then you can talk? Thank you. Please read this email during public comment. Thank you for the opportunity to share my observations. The council is now in the process of updating the mayor and city council strategic goals for 2024-2025. Last week, before the beginning of the goals discussion, the only department that made a presentation was the police department. This seems lopsided, especially as in the staff report that Chief Boone led, he said he's understaffed for what he wants to do. He also mentioned an all-hands approach in his report as something new, which was suggested and discussed during the goals discussions, according to the reports back from the small group discussions. I realize he's new to his position and has ideas and apparently wants to plan for growth. I also understand the budget has already been passed, but I try to watch every city council meeting and budget amendments come up frequently. The strategic goals for the city will have budget effects. The council will be setting goals for the next 2 years. At the listening session that I attended a few days ago, days after last week's meeting, there were a couple, maybe more, about why more officers. I wanted to comment upon the problematic timing of a request that would mean a budget increase coinciding with your updating of strategic goals for the city. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Julie Watkins, Urbana resident, Ward 5. All right. Please state your name for the record.
Tanner Coleman.
Can you move the mic a little closer to you?
Hello?
Yep.
My name's Tanner Coleman, and I have a Skew Up shirt. That's where Andrew has his business at. And lots of people skateboard purely for fun, but other people and me myself skateboard to clear your mind. Like during COVID, there was a lot of things going on, so I'd skateboard for maybe 8 to 12 hours a day, just outside or in my garage. But the problem with having a skate park only in Champaign was driving 20 minutes just to get there to skate legally. And during COVID, I didn't have a car, so I'd have to ask my mom or my dad to drive me, and then sometimes they'd get mad at me. If there was a skate park in Urbana, many kids could just go out and skate to the skate park, while Urbana kids right now can't really skate all the way to Spalding. It would take like 2 hours, probably. I started skating when I was 2. My dad really got me into it, and seeing that there hasn't been anything done in Urbana, not even like a small space, it's kind of disappointing. The exercise you can get from it, you can get a really good leg workout. And that's all.
Thank you for your input. Anybody else like to address the city council? Are there any other emails that need to be read? Okay, let's move on to the Public Health Harm Reduction Program of Joe Trotter. Please come up to the table up here. When you sit down, make sure the mic is on and is close to you. All right, and I think Chris is going to give you an introduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yes, tonight, Joe Trotter is an employee of the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District, serving as their harm reduction program coordinator. Joe has been working in the field of harm reduction and disease prevention for over 15 years. He helped start a syringe exchange in Champaign County in 2009. He has expanded syringe access and overdose prevention in East Central Illinois and has served as an advocate for harm reduction practice in the public health field. And with that short introduction, Mr. Trotter, you have the floor, sir.
And you said I had about 10 minutes. Oh, good. There's a clock. Thank you all for having me. Chris just asked that I come and give just kind of an introduction to our program. We have a few topics that we focus on. Primarily, it's for people that use drugs or people that know people that use drugs or people that see people that use drugs. So we have a syringe exchange program that we've operated since 2009. We started very small within the health department. The first year that we did it, we gave out about 3,000 syringes. Currently, at this year, we've given out over 200,600 syringes. So we have a very growing, expanding program. The need has dramatically increased. The reason for syringe exchange is that it's the #1 way to lower the spread of a disease, primarily hepatitis C, in a community. So the drug-using community needs clean syringes in order to prevent getting a disease. So that's the main intent for it. It's a proven, evidence-based practice that's one of the most efficient and inexpensive ways to lower the rate of hepatitis C in a community. So that's our primary goal. When people access our agency for services, we kind of have a meet them where they're at type of model that's client-led. So if the client comes to us and just needs supplies and needs to be going about their day, that's what we do. But then we also have the time to talk to the client about whatever else concerns or issues that they want to talk about. So if they're looking for housing options, if they're looking for job placement, if they're looking for medical care, we can help refer them to that. So it's meant to be an entry point into the medical system that for a lot of folks, particularly the folks that use drugs, they can have a fairly negative experience accessing medical care. So the intent is to give them a very welcoming place where they can be seen without any kind of judgment or stigma. We operate out of the public health district. We mask our services to be just like any other services that someone might get inside public health. So we do it in that way so it's not identifying for folks. During COVID, we expanded our services to include like a vending machine style of helping people get supplies in an after hours kind of way. And that really expanded our program immensely. And we kept that going after COVID as well. So it's a way for people to get supplies from us after hours or on the weekends when we're not open. And then the other service that we provide is overdose prevention. There's a couple ways that we do that. The primary way is providing Narcan, which is a medication that's given to someone. If they're experiencing an overdose, it stops the overdose from progressing. That's a medication that we get from the state and we distribute it out into the community. We, this year, have passed 10,000 kits that we have given out. We also do that in an extremely low barrier kind of way. Someone says, I need a kit for me, my friends, my neighborhood, we supply them with a kit. No questions asked, no forms need to be filled out. We don't have any special requirements for it. Part of that is because of the grant that we have that helps us acquire those syringes, but the other part is because Illinois now has a standing medical order that covers the entire state, which allows anybody to carry and administer Narcan on anyone else. This is a really, really great change for Illinois. It removed a lot of barriers for people to be able to access Narcan. The reason that that is allowed because of the standing order is primarily because the medication is so safe. It doesn't have any other complications with any other kind of medical condition or medical history on someone. It has no interactions with any other drugs or medicines. If it only affects someone if they have opiates present, if they don't have opiates present, then nothing happens. So it's a really, really great medication. It's absolutely proven to be life-saving. We know that overdoses are up. They're up everywhere. The most recent data says that Illinois overdoses are up about 5% from last year. So they're going up. Drug use is going up. And when drug use goes up, overdoses go up. So really, our program is designed to provide Narcan to, right now the data tells us anybody that wants it should have it. And a lot of people that don't know they should carry it should probably carry it because of the amount of overdoses that are happening. And overdoses are an emergency. They're not predicted. You can't tell when they're going to happen. For someone that uses drugs, they don't know that they are going to be experiencing overdose when it happens. It's an emergency. And so part of this is to help people prepare for if this emergency happens nearby you, you need to have Narcan present. So we provide a lot of Narcan. We give a lot out. And our grant area is not only for Champaign County, but surrounding counties as well. We have a 10-county region of Illinois that we cover. So we partner with a lot of other health departments in those 10-county regions. That's part of why we give out so many kits, because we have a vast area to give it out in. We supply the kits to not only to individuals, but to agencies, businesses, centers, so we can give kits to people to give to someone else, which happens a lot. So someone will come to us and say, hey, I'm worried about my neighborhood. And we'll say, well, how many houses are in your neighborhood? How many other people do you think will need kits? And we can supply them with as many as they want. We really have no restrictions about supplying Narcan to the community. We also provide Narcan training, which is, it's not required to carry Narcan, but if people want it, we can do a more official training with them. I don't have the numbers for how many trainings or how many individuals we've trained this year, but it's been a lot. So we do a lot of trainings for all kinds of groups. I spoke to a Salvation Army group earlier today and did a training with them. I spoke to a church last week and did a training with them, so we do all kinds of trainings. The idea with our program is we want to have as few barriers as possible for people to get the supplies, the harm reduction supplies that we provide, or to get access to Narcan. So we deliberately set up our program to be as barrier-free or as possible. We also do a little bit of access for hepatitis C. If someone tests positive for hepatitis C, there is a medication out now that helps them, because it gives them a cure. There is a cure for hepatitis C now. So a lot of what we do is navigation, help people navigate the medical system. Often, particularly for folks that use drugs, the medical system is not prepared to handle them. And has not had a good history of treating them well. So we do a lot of navigation help with them to help them understand their medical insurance. And, when the nurse says these particular things, that's what they're going to need. So we do a lot of kind of preparation work to help them get ready and have the best chance at treatment possible. That's about all the time I have. I don't know do we do questions during this kind of time? Okay, I'm all done with anything I had to talk about, so.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming and letting us know about all your services.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we can take a couple minutes to ask questions. Chris?
Okay, thank you, Joe, for coming in.
Yeah.
Real quick comment, just to give context here. We had 26 gun homicides in 2021. Town panicked. That's all we talked about. It went down to 17 gun homicides in 2022. Consider this, we had 69 drug overdoses in 2021 and 67 in 2022. I guess my first question, I don't know what it is this year, but anyway, my first question is, Mr. Trotter, is if I'm using cocaine or heroin, and I'm assuming that's what syringes are primarily for.
And methamphetamine.
And meth,
Yeah.
okay. Can I come to the CU Health District and could you test my heroin or my cocaine or my meth for fentanyl?
We do have fentanyl test strips that we can provide for you to take home and test your drugs with. Yeah.
And I'll be shown how to use the test strip.
Yeah, and
I
it
can do
actually
that.
we have a little QR code for a video for it also. There are instructions on it, but we found a video was really helpful too.
Okay.
So that's something that we provide. Yes.
And just to be clear, anyone you work with, you do not turn them over to law enforcement for prosecution, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Do you have any sense of how many drug addicts we have in this county? I know I saw a 10-county region.
Yeah.
But do you have any kind of sense of how bad the problem is here in Champaign County?
I mean, I can only base that on, the only data that I can show is the amount of syringes that we give out, which is a small snapshot of drug use in our community. And so that's always grown. Does that mean we have a lot of people that use drugs here? Yes, but I don't know that we have a rate that's any different than any other city in the same size as ours. So I know national trends tell us drug use is up everywhere.
Yeah.
But I would not say that we have something that is any different than any other city of our size.
Do you have any sense of what the drug treatment is like in the county jail?
A drug treatment at the county jail, it is Advil and Gatorade is the drug treatment that's given right now for someone who is withdrawing off of opiates. If they have a prescription for Suboxone, which is one medication that can be taken during opiate withdrawal, they will continue to allow that. They'll allow the person to maintain that prescription. But if someone comes in without a prescription for what they call, it's medically assisted recovery. So when you use opiates, when you stop using opiates, your body has a lot of terrible symptoms that it creates. It's different for everybody, but it's nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sweats. It's bad, which is why the drug is reused so much. So for folks that have already established medically assisted recovery, the jail will continue that prescription for it. For folks that are not on medically assisted recovery, it's aspirin and Gatorade.
Okay. Last question. Have the local police departments been given Narcan and training to use Narcan, and the correctional officers as well?
We have supplied both Champaign Police, the county police, and Urbana Police with Narcan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
When overdoses show up at the hospital, is there like any sort of education from the hospital to say like CUPHD has these Narcan kits, or do the hospital give them out?
Yeah, so yes, through Carl Addiction Recovery, they actually have Narcan that they can give to individuals at the ER. They also have substance use navigators, which are people with lived experience to help folks kind of help guide them through their medical visit while they're in the ER. And that's newer. Just within the past few months that has started at the ER.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jaya?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to share, I'm part of an organization that invited CUPHD to come in and do the training. We definitely appreciate it and keep Narcan on hand too. So I just would encourage people. It's really simple to get the training set up. The CUPHD was wonderful to work with. So I would strongly encourage people to do that, because the more people have Narcan on hand, the better we can do to try to keep community members safe and try to reverse some of what we're talking about and that trend of losing more of our members of our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for your time and for your hard work.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is council input and communications. Would anybody like to provide council input? James?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the community for coming out tonight, and particularly to Mr. Lewis for investing in this question, and I look forward, I have a lot of confidence with him looking at it. I look forward to what he can bring to us as council. I do want to say that when we were looking at ARPA funds and presentations, I understood Hope Village to be entered through Federal Drive. And that is the plan that I supported to be put in the ARPA funds. And now that it's changed, I'm going to be here asking them to make sure they follow up with the plan that they started with and not change it substantially. Thanks.
Anybody else? Chandra?
Ward 5 will have its listening session with Chief Boone and myself this coming Thursday at Ilias, which is at 1701 East Main at 6 p.m. So it's an opportunity to hear about crime stats specific to the Ward 5 and learn about, his vision for the Urbana Police Department and ask questions and interact with the new police chief. So I welcome everyone to join us on Thursday at 6 p.m. at Ilias.
Any other input? Jaya?
Yeah, an announcement about a listening session with Barry Dunn, which is the consultant that is doing our public safety review, came out. So just to make sure that people know that on Wednesday, November 15th from 6 to 8 p.m., there is a community safety listening session at Four Squares Church, which is located at 2101 East Washington Street in Urbana. That input is really important to us as we kind of decide what direction we're going with our public safety efforts overall. So we hope the community members will come out and join us.
Any other input? All right, well, I'll give my input for the moment. I wanted to thank all of the community members that joined Jaya and I at the listening session on Thursday. I was really happy to hear people's questions and the people who showed up, so I wanted to thank that community for doing that. The second thing I'd just like to say to the people in the audience at the moment is I hope that you are also going to the City Council in Champaign. I think Mr. Lewis eloquently said how messy this situation is with Carver Park and Urbana. And so thank you very much for coming and giving us more information about how your community, your concerns of your community. At the end of the day, Carver Park Street belongs to Champaign, but certainly, the building of it and the Plan Commission has to approve something that's built in Urbana. So thank you again for coming out. And I believe that closes the council input. All right. Reports of standing committees. I don't believe there are any. Committee of the Whole. So I'm going to go ahead on behalf of the committee and move these items. Do we need a second for this? Okay, all right. So Committee of the Whole, the consent agenda, resolution number 2023-11090R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Illinois Department of Human Services grant agreement supporting municipalities for asylum seekers services agreement for the New American Welcome Center. And resolution number 2023-1109R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Illinois Department of Human Services grant agreement supporting municipalities for asylum seeker services agreement with the Refugee Center. And resolution number 2023-11089R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Illinois Department of Human Services grant agreement supporting municipalities for asylum seeker services agreement with the Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office. And resolution number 2023-11088R, resolution estimating the tax levy for fiscal year 2023-2024. An ordinance number 2023-11041, an ordinance vacating a street from Boyden Street east of Cunningham Avenue between Oakland Avenue and Kerr Avenue. And ordinance number 2023-11040, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code Chapter 3, Section 343, maintaining the number of Class R and T1 liquor licenses for David Candelin, LLC, DBA Booming Rings, 1309 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois. On behalf of the committee, I move approval.
I'll second.
It was moved by me and seconded by Chandra. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
All right, next up on the agenda is the regular agenda with no items, reports of special committees, which is listed twice for some reason, but there's still no information. New business and discussion has been moved again to November 27th. Finally, with no further business in front of the city council, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.